Back on CBS Sports HQ, tracking breaking news, former Miami Dolphins head coach Brian Flores has filed a class action lawsuit against the NFL, citing racial discrimination. The suit alleges that the league's hiring practices have left it, quote, racially segregated and managed much like a plantation, end quote. The suit was filed today in federal court in Manhattan, and names the Dolphins, Broncos, and Giants by name. For more, we say hello to CBS senior NFL reporter Josina Anderson, our insider. Josina, tell us who you've been talking to over the last few hours and what are they saying regarding these allegations levied against the league?
Well, first and foremost, I just want to say the fact that a lawsuit like this and the magnitude of a lawsuit like this, the fact that it even has to be filed or that there was a NFL coach in the league who felt the need to have to file this is a statement in and of itself. That part of it alone is embarrassing. That part of it alone is discouraging. And that part of it alone, I think, speaks loudly. We can always have a discussion about the merit, the facts, the credibility, and all that of the case. But that you have a prominent African-American head coach who was most recently with the Miami Dolphins going through this process and issuing statements illuminating that he realizes the risk of even putting this forth and having to be in this position to do that, I think speaks in and of itself that he possesses those feelings. Now let's talk about, the people that I've spoken to. Mm-hmm. I've spoken to a few coaches. I've also spoken to a few league sources. I would say people that I would talk to when it comes to major lawsuits that the NFL has had to deal with just to get their opinion. And I'll start with the latter first. This person that I spoke to is someone that you would speak to with regards to this. And one of the things that he said is first, there are a lot of claims and allegations that are out there, and the onus is still going to be on Brian Flores in this league source's opinion, okay, to show that his claims are connected to race. You can have discussions about misbehavior, things that are against the Rooney Rule and what have you, things that are embarrassing to the league. But what ultimately this is going to come down to is which of those claims are connected to race. And the fact that it's a class action suit, obviously involving more than one team. The other aspect of that is you have that component when it comes to proving your case. But then just like in the example of Colin Kaepernick, though a separate case, you can have the measure of putting the lawsuit out there, exacting some sort of pressure with that lawsuit, and also ultimately coming to a settlement. As well, just by bringing those claims and raising the discussion, and perhaps whatever his objectives or goals are with this lawsuit, creating that sort of change through discussion on that alone, which may be one of the things that Brian Flores is looking for.
Josina, you're tapped in across the league, 32 franchises. There's different cultures in different buildings, but much was made on the way out the door of who Flores was in Miami, his incompatibility perhaps with his quarterback and maybe some of his players. What has your experience been like with Flores, or at least people close to him that you have spoken to? What type of head coach was he?
Well, I haven't had many interactions with Brian Flores. I'm not even sure that I've had a direct interaction with him. The Dolphins is not a team that I would say is among the teams that I have covered a lot in person. But regardless of that, I do speak to people in the organization if I'm not there in person. And I would say that there are multiple things that you hear with regards to his ability to coach on the field, his knowledge of the game, his ability to turn adverse situations around and still focus and produce a product. And at the same time, there's always going to be things that are said behind the scenes with regards to some of the chatter that we heard on the heels of his departure. I am not sure that any of that narrative has to do with the scope of what he's alleging in the lawsuit, because when it comes to race, obviously you have to consider the fact that the GM is African American, that the head of PR is African American. There are multiple executives on that team who are African American and a diversity that the Miami Dolphins pointed out. That being said, that doesn't mean that his claims are not worthy of review. And it doesn't mean that they're inaccurate, but certainly those are things that you point out. And I just want to stick to the scope of his lawsuit as opposed to kind of chatter with regards to how he related or got along with other people or not.
Josina, we appreciate your reporting. As always, we'll continue to come to you for the latest. Thank you. All right, let's take a look now at an official statement released by the Broncos, who again were named in these allegations specifically. The statement reads, the allegations from Brian Flores directed towards the Denver Broncos in today's court filing are blatantly false. Our interview with Mr. Flores regarding our head coaching position began promptly at the scheduled time of 7:30 a.m. on January 5th, 2019 in Providence, Rhode Island, a hotel. There were 5 Broncos executives present for the interview, which lasted approximately 3.5 hours, the fully allotted time, and concluded shortly before 11 a.m. Pages of detailed notes, analysis, and evaluations from our interview demonstrate the depth of our conversation and sincere interest in Mr. Flores as a head coaching candidate. Our process was thorough and fair to determine the most qualified candidate for our head coaching position. The Broncos will vigorously defend the integrity and values of our organization and its employees from such baseless and disparaging claims, end quote.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.